Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, October 25th, the 298th day of the year. There are 67 days left in 2022. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. In the business of Hollywood, it is rare that you get to work with someone you know really well, a friend, unless you control the purse strings, which I certainly don't, or have the clout to control that person, and I don't have that either. But I do have a close relationship with actor friend Michael O'Neill and producer Walt Woltosz. I get to work with both these men this week in Alabama Boys at the Good's Performing Arts Center on the campus of Auburn University, and it should be fun. It's an original script. Rehearsals have been on since summer, and I believe we are ready. We'll go up this Wednesday and Thursday, so check us out. Our G-list guests today are good friend and actor Michael O'Neill, who's a veteran actor. Michael has performed with Robert Duvall, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, Alfred Woodard, Charlize Theron, and Halle Berry. And when he comes on, you'll have to ask him about working with Clint Eastwood. And this week, Michael will be starring in Alabama Boys, a play at the Good's Performing Arts Center on the campus of Auburn University. And this is Michael's second time with us on TWT. I look forward to that conversation. Our other guest today is Walt Woltosz. Walt is the producer of Alabama Boys and also the film Do Not Reply. We look forward to that conversation as well. More about Walt in my G-list guest introduction. Also this week is the 50th anniversary of The Amazins. The Amazins are guys from Auburn's football team of 1972. We recall The Amazins, quite frankly, because we were amazing. The guys were predicted to only win 2 games. The prognosticator said we would beat Mississippi State and Chattanooga, and that would be it. We won 10 games against 1 loss. We finished number 5 in the country. We beat Alabama in the famous Bama punt game, and it is expected that all will show up. All the guys that can, will show up this upcoming weekend for the festivities. Now, this edition of Tuesdays with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl consulting firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl creates a solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, TG. Good morning, Barbara.
Good
How
morning,
we doing
gentlemen.
this morning?
Doing well. Hope you are too.
We are. I am on the campus of Auburn University at the Good's Performing Arts Center. We have a performance tomorrow night, and I hope to see you guys there.
Yes, sir. I will be there.
Okay.
Well, I will make it on Thursday night. I'll be at the Thursday night showing.
So, Barbara, what's happening in your world?
Well, Thom, I want to remind all our viewers that we are officially 2 months away from Christmas. So all those procrastinators out there, it's time to start your Christmas shopping. Don't wait till the last minute. And it's hard to believe this year has flown by.
It has, but Michael just took a deep breath like, oh, man.
I know. I saw that.
You're bringing that up already.
I mean, we hadn't gotten to Halloween yet.
Yeah, but you need to start early.
You know what? I was telling Joyce, in our neighborhood, and maybe it's because of the pandemic, I've never seen so much Halloween decoration before. Yes. I mean, they buying these tall things that blow up in your yard. I think people are just excited to be able to get out and have fun again. So
I think so.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because there was a news story on yesterday about people coming into costume stores asking for a Jeffrey Dahmer outfit.
Wow.
talking that movie.
Yes.
Jeffrey Dahmer, the guy that used to kill people. And
Yes. There's this movie out about him or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure.
The lady that owned the shop said, well, we don't condone that. You know, it's okay if you want to dress your child up as Freddy Krueger or Michael of Halloween because they were fictional characters.
Right.
But we don't design costumes after people that are real life murderers.
Real murderers. No.
One of the comedians, I can't think of who it was, but he was talking about someplace on the African continent where people ate people, you know, and he said, well, you ain't got to go all the way over there to find somebody that eats people. We can go right here in Chicago. Jeffrey Dahmer been eating people for quite a while.
For a long time.
I saw some of that movie. I fell asleep on it, but he had this one guy, man. And the guy, you know, they were after gay sex, and man, the guy he wouldn't let the guy go, and the guy finally got away, man. Just ran down the street, hollered, "Help! Help! Help!" You know, because he was a scary guy, man. That Dahmer. So, what else you got, Barbara?
Well, Tom, as you mentioned, Alabama Boys will be premiering in Auburn this week. I'm so excited about that. I'm officially claiming it as Alabama Boys Week in the state of Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so looking forward to
I'm sure Michael and Walt will appreciate that, and so
yes.
Okay.
And in addition, it's Magic City Classic Week here in Birmingham. So there's a lot of festivities here in the city. It used to be just a weekend thing. It's week long now. They start on the Sunday preceding the classic with all kinds of activities. So the city is buzzing.
You know, I don't know how long it was when I first started my business, but I promoted the classic for about 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Working with A&M in Alabama State.
Yes.
And, it was fun. We went from about 48,000 people to a high of 62,000. I got them all in the front page of the newspaper and on television. So
you put them on the map, Tom.
Well, it was time to move on then. You know, so but I had fun working with them. They were good people to work with.
That's great.
Great. So I'm glad everything is going really well.
Yes, it is.
Matter of fact, you know, a lot of times at that game, people spend more time walking around than they do watching the game. They're just walking around.
There's more people outside of the stadium tailgating than there are inside the stadium at the game.
So at one point, we were up in the box, and you know, a lot of food, drink. Everybody's having fun, just talking, laughing. And finally, somebody looked down and said, "Hey, man, the game's over."
I've been there before. I recognize that. Yeah, so that happens a lot. People are enjoying themselves, and it's just one big party.
Yeah. So, Michael, what you got?
Well, I got a couple things. They'll be short, but you know, when we talk about an upsurge in flu this year, as well as COVID coming back, Pfizer just announced on October 20th that they are going to sell that vaccine at 10,000% markup in 23. Now, the thing about that is, you know, those first 500 million doses that were purchased from Pfizer by the U.S. government invested $1.9 billion in vaccine production. And then the remaining doses that the government bought, they purchased it for about $30 each. Well, starting in first quarter 23, they are going to start to sell them on the brand name Comirnaty, if I'm pronouncing that right, Comirnaty, for $110 to $130 per dose.
That's awful.
Now, the estimated cost to manufacture or produce a vial of vaccine is $1.18.
Oh,
that's sad.
Now, what they're saying is that, you know, it's different under an emergency situation than it is under a normal situation. So they have higher transportation costs that they may have to deal with and what have you. That's what they're trying to justify as their reason for marketing up. So that may bring your mind to think about, what about the people that do not have insurance? And they're saying they're going to try and work with people through the manufacturer that does not have insurance. But those of us that do have insurance, we'll be paying that $110 to $130 per dose.
Wow.
So, we talk about healthcare, and many times everybody blame the health insurance side, but that's the other side of it, which is big pharma and the drug makers, because they're able to do these types of things. And the insurance company have to bring that into their costs. Right. So it's not just the insurance companies themselves. The one other thing that I want to mention, it's somewhat of a sad note, but I think it's something that needs to be discussed. If you or anyone or your loved one is feeling distress, please call the National Suicide Prevention Line. Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, that number is 1-800-273-8255. And the reason why I bring that up, a young girl from Palm Harbor, Florida, 16 years old, took her own life just before the start of her senior year at East Lake High School. Wow. And the reason being is she was bullied by 3 of her teammates on the hockey team. 3 of the teammates have now been suspended because she took her own life. And what it boils down to is something that is so, I would say, arbitrary, is the fact that this young girl, McKenna, she asked her teammate if she would mind if she spoke to her or talked to her ex-boyfriend from 2 years ago. And the teammate said that would be fine. And when McKenna started to engage in conversation, this person that told her it was okay got 2 other teammates, and they started to bully and harass McKenna for doing so. Wow. And after McKenna sent a text message and said, "I'm sorry, I apologize, I didn't know it was an issue," they ramped it up even further, telling her things like they hope they never see her again. And this girl was the type of girl that always looked out for people that felt alienated and ostracized. And now here she was being ostracized and alienated from her own teammates on the hockey team, just for speaking to an ex-boyfriend from 2 years ago.
That's truly sad.
And,
that is. That's
and the audacity of this little girl to show up at her funeral. The mother said she was shocked when she saw
one of the bullies
that was involved in this show up at McKenna's funeral.
Wow.
So, nowadays, because of text messaging and social media, we've always said that social media can be a good tool if used for positivity. But this is the flip side of it. And this is how these kids chose to punish young McKenna. And she just couldn't take it anymore.
That's sad. We'll all say a prayer for her and her family.
Yes.
And for the other girls, because obviously they're misled in some kind of way. So
yes. So I just want to repeat the suicide prevention hotline number. It's 1-800-273-8255.
Thank you for that, man. Well, I see that Antley Staten is from South Carolina is on here this morning with the news. And his question is, whose college team is ranked number 25? Can we guess? Can we guess?
All we know is it's not Auburn right now. So,
well, I would imagine he's talking about South Carolina.
It's definitely South Carolina. He sent several messages yesterday through Facebook to let us know. He wanted us to mention that on the show this morning. So, congratulations, Antley, and the University of South Carolina.
Yeah, they beat Jimbo Fisher's Texas Aggies. What, 30 to 24 or something like that.
He says they're 5-2. I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Well, we don't have to play him because we'd have to beat him and he'd be sad. So let me ask you, Barbara. Now you've been working on a couple of things that are going to come up later on in the year. You've tracked down the first woman to get an athletic scholarship at Auburn University, which is something we've been wondering about. And we're going to do a show about her. And we're also going to do a Title IX show. You want to give us a little bit of information?
Yes, Tom, that we're having a Title IX show on December the 6th. Marianne Merritt Melton was the first female scholarship athlete at the University of at Auburn. I spoke to her last week, and she's such a delightful person, but she told me she felt like she's been forgotten. She said she broke 22 records at Auburn on women's basketball team, and she said, to her knowledge, none of those records have been, broken. So she's just like, she said she looks at all the banners when she goes back to Auburn to a game that's hanging in the rafters of the arena, and she said hers is missing, and it definitely should be there. So
another forgotten one.
We've
been tracking down the forgotten ones,
yes,
bringing them back into the spotlight. And,
absolutely.
So
she will be a guest on our show on December the 6th. So we're looking forward to having her join us.
That's great. And now, is this going to be as a part of the Title IX?
Yes, she's going to be on as part of our Title IX show on December 6th.
Okay, sounds great. All right. Michael, so tell us what's happening with the politics in Georgia. You're our political guy over there.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's pretty interesting is that when, and I'll say it this way, when the Republicans decided to implement what they call the integrity law because of all of the talk about voter suppression and Trump bringing in his stuff and everything, they took a lot of heat for the measures that they were taking and implementing in order to try to instill confidence in people for voter fraud. Well, as it turns out, Georgia is experiencing record turnout for voting right now. They are breaking records that you don't see in an off cycle. And what I mean by off cycle, this is midterm and it's not presidential. When there's a presidential election, everybody comes out. Well, they are now breaking presidential records right now.
Wow.
And a lot of the people and the officials that took heat are asking President Joe Biden, when are you going to apologize? Because he said it was Jim Crow 2.0. And unfortunately, Stacey Abrams jumped on that bandwagon. So that's what's the main thing right now. And it's kind of interesting that Stacey Abrams was asked that question, and she said, let's be clear. It's just like people saying there's no sharks in the water because more people are jumping in the water. Just because more people are voting, that doesn't mean it's still not voter suppression going on. So people's like, okay, but still, nobody's really complaining. Everybody is voting right now. And at the moment, Governor Kemp has about a 10-point lead over Stacey Abrams. And the race between Senator Warnock and Herschel Walker is still a toss-up. It's about 2 points difference there. And usually the margin for error is plus or minus 3. So that shows you where they are. Herschel does have another allegation up right now. This time it's not regarding abortion and let's say domestic violence. It's regarding campaign laws possibly being broken. When Herschel first started to try to get some attention, he would go down to gas stations and give out gas cards through his 34 and 22 pack. And they're saying that's enticing people to vote for you and what have you. So he's being investigated for that at the present moment. So we'll see how that turns out.
Okay. Well, it'll be over soon.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some more weeks.
It's so funny. As soon as Warnock runs a commercial about Herschel, Herschel runs one about him. And so they're going back and forth right now on that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I don't know. We haven't learned to agree to be disagreeable.
Right.
We haven't learned that yet. I've got to talk to some students today, and that's one of the things I'll say to them. We can disagree, without being disagreeable.
Yes.
Well, I think that takes a certain amount of maturity, doesn't it?
That is so true.
I agree
I
with
was
you.
about to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah. But, yeah.
Maturity and some common sense. Both of those go hand in hand.
I mean, everybody seems to take because someone disagrees with them or doesn't see something the same way that it's personal. And it's
Right.
not personal, it's just that person's viewpoint.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And you don't have to change their viewpoint.
Right.
You just
It's
don't have to
okay.
agree with it.
It's
Yeah.
okay to disagree.
Yes, yes, yes. You know, it's so funny. I remember one time I was having this conversation with somebody, and we were talking about Dominique Wilkins and Charles Barkley, and that was the year Charles Barkley won the MVP. And this particular guy was a Dominique fan, and I said, "Well, I think Charles has a better overall game than Dominique Wilkins." And he got angry with me because I stated that, and he said, "Well, I tell you what." I challenge you to a one-on-one basketball game tomorrow.
That's
And
going to solve it, right?
Yeah, right. That's going to prove who's better between Charles and
I looked
Dominique.
at him and I said, what difference does that make? I say, if I beat you or you beat me in one-on-one basketball, that's not going to change either of our opinions.
Right.
And I said, and furthermore, you can't carry my jock strap on a basketball court. So I advise you not to try that.
Okay, anything else before we move on? I appreciate it. You guys have a great day. Let's move on. Excuse me, to Got a Minute with Sean Jones.
Good morning. My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Hello to everyone joining in with us this morning. I hope you all are well and remaining safe. We're in our last full week of October. The weather is changing, the leaves are falling, and I'm loving it all. Now, I'd like to take this time to thank Mrs. Gloria Owens for mentioning that October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which was first declared in 1989. Since then, October has been a time to acknowledge domestic violence survivors and be a voice for its victims. Domestic violence is prevalent in every community and affects all people, regardless of age, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality. Physical violence is often accompanied by emotionally abusive and controlling behavior as part of a much smaller, systematic pattern of dominance and control. Domestic violence can result in physical injury, psychological trauma, and even death. The devastating consequences of domestic violence can cross generations and last a lifetime. If you know something, say something. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Sean Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
All right, Sean, Gloria is on with us this morning. So good morning to you, Gloria Owens. I hope you're doing well, and I will be seeing you soon. So Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. And the G list, our G list guests today are first of all, Michael O'Neill, who's currently appearing on Netflix in a new hit series called Echoes. Michael is an actor. He's been on with us before. Most of you know him, have seen him. Some of the shows that he's been, TV roles include Grey's Anatomy, The West Wing, Dallas Buyers Club, Sea of Love, J. Edgar. We'll have to ask him about J. Edgar, Transformers, Secondhand Lions, and Traffic. Michael is an Alabama native. He has a degree in economics from Auburn University. He was University Fall 2019 commencement speaker. And we'll look forward to talking with him. And he is one of the stars of Alabama Boys. And so we'll get him to talk about that today. Our next guest is Walter S. Woltosz, Walt Woltosz. Walt testifies to the potential of an engineering mind to impact the world. He's combined his engineering knowledge with a problem-solving approach. Walt has established himself as an engineer who has improved the quality of life for people around the world. He holds a bachelor's and master's degrees from Auburn University in aerospace engineering, a master's in administrative science from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. 1981, he established Words Plus, a company that designs, manufactures, and sells computer-based communication systems. He is internationally known for being the first person to create an integrated communication system based on a personal computer, and his work in this area radically transformed the way in which people with disabilities communicate. In 1986, Woltosz and his team developed the first system with adaptive word prediction and developed the comprehensive ACES, Augmentative Communicative Evaluation System, the largest software development project undertaken in the field. His innovative communication systems have been used by people with disabilities throughout the world, including author Sir Stephen Hawking, the world-renowned astrophysicist who has suffered from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, for decades. Walt is the producer of Alabama Boys, and he also produced his film, Do Not Reply, and we're lucky to have him. So let's welcome Michael and Walt this morning. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Thom.
Good morning, Thom.
How are we doing?
I'll tell you
Very
when
well.
I wake up.
Michael, oh, what do they say? You look a little peaked this morning, whatever they say.
I feel like I've been ridden hard and put away wet.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know what to tell you because I think you're going to be ridden a little harder in the next couple of days. So. Well, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. As your line in the play goes, if I was doing any better, I'd need to be two people.
Well, good for you. Great to have you on this morning, man. It is wonderful. So, Walt, I'm going to start with you and tell us how you go from the engineering world to the world of film. And you did the film Do Not Reply. Now you're working, you theater, and you're still working on that the aviatrix film, it sounds like. So tell us about that.
Yes, sir. Well, our company that produced the computer-based communication systems for people who are disabled was tapped a few times as technical advisors on several films. We did Right to Die, which was Raquel Welch and Michael Gross. Raquel played this is a true story, a psychologist in the New York City area who had ALS and wanted to end her own life. Another film was called Hugo Pool. This starred Alyssa Milano and Patrick Dempsey. Sean Penn was in it. Robert Downey Jr. was in it. And Robert Downey Sr. produced it. And it was actually a story about Robert Downey Sr.'s wife, who had ALS and who was infatuated with their pool cleaner, who was, I guess, this very buff young man. Well, they reversed the story and they made Alyssa Milano the pool cleaner in the short shorts and halter top, and Patrick Dempsey was now the ALS patient in a wheelchair. And so we were technical advisors on that. And Robert Downey Sr.'s wife had used one of our communication
Kelly, are you
systems. So that got me, behind the scenes. I was actually crammed into a corner behind the cameraman with the director of the Right to Die movie, operating the computer, trying to make it look like Raquel Welch was operating the computer. So, I mean, this was a very interesting experience, and I got the bug. I thought this is so cool how movies are made, and all the preparation that goes into shooting a matter of seconds worth of film, and just all the lighting and the sound and everything else that went on just fascinated me. I later got interested in the story of Bessie Coleman. Bessie was the first American to have an international pilot's license post World War I. She was born in 1892, and in 1921, she went to France to learn how to fly. And the reason she had to go to France was she was a Black woman. No one would teach her how to fly in the United States. So she had to learn to speak French. So she did. And she became the first American. No white man or white woman or Black man had a license before Bessie Coleman.
Wow.
She was before Amelia Earhart and Howard Hughes and Charles Lindbergh, and nobody knows about her. And so I called my son one day, my son Daniel has a degree in film production. And I said, we need to make a movie about Bessie Coleman. She needs to be in the history book. She deserves a place right up there with Amelia Earhart and the others. So we started working on that for about 5 years. Turned out it was going to be a pretty expensive production with all the period costumes and vehicles and so on. And so we thought, well, let's do something a little bit smaller that we can afford to do on our own. And so we co-wrote and co-directed and co-produced Do Not Reply, which is out there on the internet. You can find it out there. A little caution, it's a thriller / horror, more thriller and suspenseful than horror, but are some elements there. And basically it shows what happens when kids get contacted by internet predators on social media sites, and then they fall for the story that they're given that this is another high school kid across town. And finally, the phony high school kid, who's probably a 40-year-old guy or something, pervert, says, well, let's meet in person, and bad things can happen. And then Alabama Boys came about. As you know, we were in New York City with the Auburn, Because This Is Auburn campaign, the $1 billion campaign we had a few years back. And you and Thom Thom, you and Michael were there at the Tavern on the Green at an event. And I said, they're building this new performing arts center at Auburn. It'd be really cool if the two of you and Octavia Spencer could put something together and be up there on the stage. And I think one of you said, you're not getting Octavia. She's too busy. But I said, well, let's do something. And if you'll do it, Ginger and I will be the executive producers on it. And I said, now, I want to be in it. I want to be on the stage, even if I'm just pushing a broom in the back. I don't need any lines. And I think Michael said, you're going to get some lines. So this is my stage debut.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Michael, I think you're on mute. Okay, yeah.
My system went down for a second. I'm back up.
Okay, all right. Well, good deal, Walt. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I can tell you, oh yeah, we weren't going to have you on there without some lines and something to do and all that stuff. And I tell you, I think it's interesting, and I think people will be very surprised by your character. Michael, how are you this morning, man?
Oh, I'm really good, Thom. I'm just waking up. I have to say, Walt, the feedback on you yesterday came back really good. You're gonna steal it, baby. You're gonna steal it. I'm looking forward to this, Thom. We had a great rehearsal yesterday. It's a big day for us because I've been working on this show for 2.5 years, and most of that time you've been in Fort Walton and I've been in Los Angeles or Birmingham or wherever, but we haven't been able to do it together. So to be in the space together and and explore this beautiful theater, man, most beautiful theater I've ever worked in, it's been nice.
I got to ask you about this, and this is one of the things that has come up since we've been rehearsing. Can you tell the audience about working with Clint Eastwood? I knew I was going to ask you that.
Oh, man. Listen, I don't know of an actor who doesn't want to work with him, but I wanted to work with him really bad, and I saw all these roles going by, all these things. And I thought, yeah, I could have done that. I wish I'd done that. And when I finally got to work with him, right, it's in a film called J. Edgar, and Leonardo DiCaprio is playing J. Edgar, and I'm playing this old senator from Tennessee, McClellan. He was the longest serving senator of that state. Oh, horse trader is what he was. So we're in a Senate conference room, and I'm just giving J. Edgar hell, but Leonardo was out there, and Dr. Clint Eastwood is over to my right directing. So I'm looking at Leonardo, except my head keeps looking down the dice because I want to see Clint Eastwood, man. He's a movie star that I grew up with, And I love this about him. He never says action or cut. He doesn't start, well, action and cut. He never liked it as an actor. So I don't know how he gets his camera and his sound guys up and running, but Clint just walks up on you and says, you can begin. Yeah, you can begin. Okay. So you start the scene, right? And then you do the scene. And then the dialogue runs out. And you're sitting there thinking, is that my line? Did I drop a line? Is there something else? You don't say it out loud, but your brain is just,
Because
you
he doesn't tell you to cut.
he doesn't say cut. So you just going. And he's recording all that. He's got that all, he's filming every bit of it, right? And then he'll after a little bit, he'll just reach in and go, you can stop. And he'll take that footage that he's got of you thinking, right? You're thinking, you're alive, and he'll put it wherever he wants it. He'll pepper it in there for a reaction shot here, a reaction shot there. Yeah, he's a masterful filmmaker and fast, man. He doesn't fool around. You may just get one pass with Clint.
Okay.
You don't fool around.
Before we go to Michael and Barbara, Walt, I want to come back to you one more time. And you were telling me the other day that you have been involved with the NIL program, I guess you should call it a program, on the Auburn campus. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so NIL, name, image, and likeness, is a way for student athletes to get some compensation for the use of their name, image, and or likeness in promoting different causes or products or whatever. And for many years, they were not able to do that. About a year ago, the Supreme Court passed a ruling that said they now are able to receive compensation. Now, it can't be for playing their sport. It has to be for some other activity that they're paid to do as contractors. So they get a 1099. They have to pay double Social Security because they're self-employed. And we have to teach them about how to manage that. But we formed a collective called On to Victory, a website, ontavictory.com, where Auburn fans who enjoy watching Auburn sports of all different kinds can come in and contribute, so much a month or one time or, whatever's comfortable for them to support these student athletes. Last night at the basketball donors dinner, Bruce Pearl told about KD Johnson. And KD had sent him a text over the summer, said, Coach, I love you. I just want to thank you for all you've done for me and so on. And so Bruce called up Chad Pruitt and says, what did he do? What did he do that you didn't tell me? He says he got his first NIL check and he sent most of it home to his mama. And so he was so pleased that he was able to do something for his mama. So, I mean, these kids work hard. Tommy Tuberville told me, you can't believe the schedule. And Tom, you were a student athlete. The schedule you put in, you're up early in the morning, you're working out, you're doing your classes, doing your homework, doing your practices, studying late at night, and do it all again the next day. It's like having two full-time jobs. And in the past, these kids could never get any kind of compensation, even though people were using their name, image, and likeness for various purposes. Well, now they can. So ontavictory.com is our collective. Our board put this together over the last number of months, and we've all signed a pledge. None of us will ever receive any kind of compensation out of this. We're putting our time and money into it, not taking anything out of it. We want to maximize what goes to the student athletes.
So you just mentioned that, I was a student athlete, and I mentioned that we're having the Amazins reunion this weekend. So is the NIL retroactive? Every time I ask that question, whoever I ask it of, they just start laughing.
Well, there actually is a court case going on, but I guess the statute of limitations is 4 or 5 years. So I'm afraid you were a little bit before that.
Okay, good. I'm going to bring Michael and Barbara on. I'm sure they got some questions for you guys. Barbara, you got questions?
Good morning. First, I want to just say I feel honored. I'm in the presence of 4 great Auburn men. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this on a Tuesday morning. So I'm honored to be in you guys' presence today. And Walt, I'm going to start with you. Tell us about your story. How did you even get to Auburn? You came from Arkansas, graduated high school, went to Air Force, and then came to Auburn. So talk about that, please.
Well, I went into the Air Force right out of high school. I graduated high school at 17 in 1963. I was so much smarter than my parents that I said, I got to get out of this house. And so I came home with enlistment papers one day, and my dad was in the Navy in World War II. He went in 39, of course, didn't get out till the war was over. And I said, Dad, I want to join the Air Force and they'll pay for my college, but I need you to sign these papers. He says, get me a pen. So he says, they'll grow you up. And so I got stationed out in Oklahoma on a Strategic Air Command base, B-52s. And I was a missile guidance and flight control technician on one of the original cruise missiles called the Hound Dog missile. Anyway, one of my fellow squadron mates got into this college program and went to Auburn. A guy named Frank Schunk. I haven't thought about him in many, many years. And the next year, when I got accepted into the program, they said, do you know where you want to go to school? And I said, can I go to Auburn? And they said, absolutely. It's a great engineering school. What do you know about Auburn? I said, I don't know anything about Auburn, but one of my friends from the squadron here is over there. At least I'll know somebody. So one of those serendipity things that happens in life that change the whole course of your life.
Yeah,
That's
the
great.
moments of your life.
Yes.
We talked about that today with some students.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, you got another one? Are you good?
Michael, you've worked with Thom, and of course now working with Walt. Tell us about that whole experience working with two Auburn guys and how that worked out.
Well, Barbara, it's nice to see you, by the way. But there's an ease to it. We share a language. We share a sensibility more than anything. We're not. Auburn people aren't really entitled. They tend to kind of be more humble, but they'll work hard for whatever it is that's in front of them. And we've taken this whole project on kind of with that mindset. I will say this: there's been a whole lot of laughter. We just, you can't work with Thom Gossam and not be ready to laugh because it's coming. It's coming.
Yes.
And so we've had a lot of fun and we've learned a lot about one another, I think. And also we've trusted one another with our stories because, the nature of the play and dealing with growing up as two children in the state of Alabama during the civil rights movement. Very different points of view, very different experiences, and it cost us both. So we're onto something, I think.
Yes, it's exciting.
Okay. Michael?
Yes. It's good to see you guys. And I do have a couple of questions, but I do have a comment about the NIL. That's been talked about for quite a few years. And I recall when my daughter was playing basketball at Wake Forest, I had an action shot of her in a game that I wanted to make copies of and frame and send to her. And I went to the local Kinko's to get a copy of this. And the guy behind the counter looked at me and said, well, she's playing at Wake Forest. You got to get authorization from Wake Forest for me to make a copy of this. And I looked at him like, this is my daughter. If you don't make a copy of this, I'm going to reach across that counter and drag you out. So he went and made a copy of that. But I was like, you got to get out of here. But anyway, Michael, it's good to see you again and have you back. Walt, also good to see you. I got an opportunity to meet you at the reception for Alabama boys that weekend, dare I say it, when we played Penn State. Anyway, the most enjoyable part about that weekend was hanging out before the game. And I want to say, Walt, congratulations on getting the Engineer Award and being selected to the Engineering Hall of Fame for Alabama. Kudos to you. But tell us a little bit about your career, because on your background, you had been involved in developing rocket propellant motors and missiles, including stuff for the space shuttle. How exciting was that to work on something that was involved in the space shuttle? So even if you personally didn't go to the moon, something you produced went to the moon.
Well, it was exciting. For about a dozen years, I was an aerospace engineer. I worked on the space shuttle in 1971, about 10 years before the first launch. And I was working on a computer program that would optimize the ascent trajectory. So when it climbs up to orbit from the launch pad, how do you steer it to get the most payload to orbit? And accidentally, and now this was 6 boxes of punch cards. Okay, this is back in the old days. And accidentally discovered when I put in the ability for the shuttle to roll, the computer program did something that no human would have thought of. It rolled the shuttle completely upside down, and found out that by doing that, you get about 8,000 pounds of free payload. It's just far more efficient. And we never would have thought of that. The computer program, the optimization routine figured that out. but I was given credit for it because I put the roll capability into there. So that was really exciting, and worked on many different military and space applications in the rocket motor industry. And then my wife's mother had ALS in 1980, and Ginger actually came up with the idea. She says, "Do you think one of these new personal computers could be used to make a communication system for my mom?" And I thought, man, I'm working 80 to 100 hours a week. I don't have time for this. So I said, well, I'll think about it. And nobody owned a computer in those days. Now we carry them around. We call them phones, but they're really computers that you can make phone calls with. But in those days, computers were just things that scientists and engineers and researchers would use. So I ended up finally relenting and going to a Radio Shack store and buying a TRS-80 Model 1 that had 16K of RAM. That's K, not megabytes or gigabytes. And started developing something. And that turned into a business we had for 30 years. We did Stephen Hawking's communication system and thousands of others around the world.
Wow.
And now that company is owned by another Auburn engineer, Galen Ponder, who lives north of Birmingham. And he's still got it going, and he's still helping people who are disabled to communicate. And halfway through that career, 30 years, 15 years into that, I wanted to get back into simulation and modeling, which is what I had done in aerospace, but now I'd been in healthcare for 15 years. So it turns out two of my oldest kids worked for a drug company out in Palo Alto, California, Syntex. This was the first company that brought out birth control pills way back when. And through them, I met a young man who was trying to simulate how drugs are absorbed in the gastrointestinal tract. Started a company called Simulations Plus, took it public in 1997. We're on the NASDAQ. SLP is our stock symbol, and it's done very, very well. We are a tool producer. We're a productivity company, basically. We produce software that's used in drug research, and we provide consulting services. And got divisions in Buffalo, New York, Research Triangle Park, headquarters in Lancaster, California, and a division in Paris, France. So it's done quite well. We started out with a little $5 million IPO that I thought was a lot of money. We were burned through that pretty fast, but bootstrapped ourselves up to where we are today.
Well, thank you for that. Now I understand the meaning behind every great man is a woman. So
yeah.
Credit goes to your wife for that. So congratulations.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Michael, good to talk to you again. I know that you've had several roles and what have you. Before I ask you your favorite role, most actors enjoy playing a role that's totally opposite of their personality. Which role did you play that's opposite of your personality?
I think probably the most opposite, Michael, is Grey's Anatomy. I played a widower that was really untethered by his wife's passing, and had begged the surgeons in the hospital not to unplug her, to give her a chance. And she had a do not resuscitate order, and they said, well, there's nothing we can do about it. We have to. And so she died in my arms. And I went back into that hospital a couple of 3 months later with a 9mm and started just mayhem, real mayhem. So I think that's probably the one that I'd like to think is farthest from me. Maybe there's a homicidal character living in there, but that I think that certainly that was the hardest character I ever had to play, Michael, and maybe some of the best work I ever did.
Interesting.
That really bothered you. I remember that. That weighed on you for a while.
Yeah, when you take that on. And my great fear was that it would be sensationalized. And I got to talk to Miss Rhimes a good deal about it, Shonda Rhimes. And she said something in one of our conversations after I said, this frightens me. She said, Michael, it frightens me too. So I knew that we were on the same page. I knew then that this was not, she didn't want to Hollywoodize this. She was actually making two statements. One was the availability of guns, and the other was the fact that hospitals don't look after the spouse very well. They don't keep up with what goes on when someone, but it bothers me to this day when there's a workplace shooting.
you can't help it. It comes back up on you.
Mm, mm. Interesting. Well, that also tells you that you were really involved in the character and you were in conflict because that's not yourself. So
Yeah.
that's an amazing job to be able to pull it off and make it believable,
Thanks,
So
Michael.
congratulations on that. Have you ever had the opportunity to play a leading man role, or what would be your leading man role that you played, would you say?
I've always been a character guy. I don't know that anything I'd ever done I can actually consider it as a quote unquote leading man. Most of what I think about for character actors, Michael, is that you try to carry some of the weight for the leading guys. They strap a film to their shoulders and they got to carry it, from a month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever it is. So when you come in as a character guy, if you can get some of that weight off and help
Yeah.
them move that story forward, I sort of feel like that's our job. I don't know. I did a little film called Bound. In fact, Walt was involved with it, and it's a two-hander. So I'm one of the lead characters in that. It's about a 12-minute film about two estranged brothers that come back together after their father's death, after their passing, and have to deal with one another, have to come to some accommodation with one another. Just as a side note, it shocked me when we were doing research on it. There are a lot of families in this country that are estranged, either child to parent or sibling to sibling. Gracious sakes, man. This life is short. We need to figure out a way to, mend some fences or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll finish with this. When Thom introduced you guys, he said Michael O'Neill, the star of the show. And I heard of the Alabama boys. And so, and I heard that you had said back when we had the reception that if you did your job, Thom's story would be told.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the production. So I want to see who's going to be the real star of the show.
He's the star of the show, Michael.
We,
His life is the star of the show, I'm honored to be up there with it. But I appreciate you pointing that out.
and I don't know that we look at it like that. I think we're just telling our
Right.
stories, and Walt has certainly contributed a lot in terms of what he's doing. So the stories are just riveting, I think, in a lot of ways, and so they're surprising in some ways. Michael's got some real surprises in his story. That Michael tells the story, and I'll just say this one little part. We talk about the beginning of integration in schools, and at his middle school, there was one black child out of 850 students.
Wow.
Can you imagine being that? Hey, Walt, Kenneth Kelly is on with us. He says, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kenneth. Good friend.
Yeah,
Wonderful
I
guy.
knew you'd want to know. So let's see. Barbara, you got anything else?
I do. I have a question for basically both of you, Thom and Michael. My 9-year-old nephew has been interested in acting since he started talking. He's actually taking an acting class right now in Birmingham at Red Mountain Theater. But when did you all know you wanted to be an actor? You wanted to get into the movies and acting and plays. At what age did the bug hit you?
Michael?
Well, it happened for me late. I had seen a man come to Auburn, actually. I think it was my junior year, and did a performance of Mark Twain. And it's funny, that thumped something in me, Barbara. I didn't even know it was there at that time.
Wow.
But I'll be honest with you, I don't think I became an actor as such until people kept saying to me that I wouldn't make it. That's when I became an actor. Yeah. Thom?
And for me, I don't know. I just think that I've always had this free range mind where I could do a lot of different things. And I started doing community theater in Birmingham and really, really enjoyed it. And as Michael and I talk, you have to have a lot of luck in this business.
Yes.
And I did and I didn't have, I was working at a phone company, so I didn't have any intentions of going any further than that. And a guy called me up one morning, said he was in town to shoot a film, and he'd seen me in the production we'd done the night before at Festival Theater on the south side of Birmingham. And he wrote me into his film, and I got my my SAG card and started from there. Carol O'Connor hired me to be on The Heat of the Night, and Alfred, I met Alfred Woodard, and she encouraged me to come to Los Angeles after we did Miss Evers' Boys. So a lot of it is, I say it was pure luck. You have to be lucky. Like Bear Bryant said, luck is where your preparation meets your opportunity.
Yes.
And I've been lucky if that's the case.
That's great.
Anybody got anything else? We got to go to work.
I just want to say what a tremendous honor it's been for me to work with these two fine actors and friends. Their craftsmanship, their knowledge, their skill, just watching them work has been an absolute thrill. And I can't thank you all enough for including me in this.
Pleasure's ours, Walt.
I'd like to say thank you, a big thank you, and I know both of you guys echo this, to the people at the Googe Performing Arts Center, to the crew. I don't know everybody's name, so if I start calling names, I'll leave somebody out. But they have just been wonderful. You ask for something, and they're right on top of it, and they get it done for you. And there's, we haven't one time been told, oh, we'll see, our policy won't allow. we haven't run into that policy thing. And so I want to thank them because they have been wonderful. And no matter how we look, none of it could be done without them. So, all right. Well, we're going to probably wrap this up so we can go do our other job. It's been wonderful. Thank you, guys. And so we're going to move on. Thank you. Okay, as we mentioned, on the 26th and 27th at the Googe Performing Arts Center will be a production of Alabama Boys, a new play starring myself, Michael O'Neill, and Walt Woltosz. That is how I see it. On this October the 25th of the year 2022, that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you so much for being on with us this morning. Good morning, Charlene Reed Evans. Good morning, Pat Addington. And all the people, all the Heat of the Night people who are on. I want to thank Michael and Barbara. Thank Michael O'Neill, Walt Woltosz. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc., Emily Hedrick, the communicator, Sean Jones, the organizer and producer of the show, and Got a Minute. And remember to enjoy yourself, make every day count, stay safe. Peace.